Long before modern Europe emerged, before powerful kingdoms controlled the north, a civilization of fearless sailors and warriors rose from the frozen lands of Scandinavia, the Vikings. To many people, they were raiders. To others, they were explorers, merchants, shipbuilders, and pioneers. They crossed dangerous oceans, discovered distant lands, built powerful settlements, and changed the course of European history forever. From the icy fjords of Norway to the shores of North America, their story became one of the greatest adventures in human history. This is the story of the Viking Age. The Viking world began in Scandinavia, a region of rugged mountains, deep forests, frozen winters, and dramatic coastlines. Life was difficult. Farmable land was limited. Winters were long. Resources were often scarce. Survival required strength, adaptability, and determination. Families lived in wooden longhouses. Communities relied on farming, fishing, and trade. Children learned survival skills from an early age. Yet, despite the challenges, the people of Scandinavia developed a culture built upon courage, loyalty, and adventure. Those values would eventually drive them beyond the horizon. One of the greatest Viking achievements was their ships. Longships transformed the Viking world. These vessels were fast, flexible, durable. They could cross open oceans and navigate shallow rivers. This gave the Vikings extraordinary mobility. Where other civilizations saw barriers, the Vikings saw opportunities. Their ships carried warriors to distant shores, merchants to foreign markets, explorers into the unknown. The longship became one of the most important technologies of the medieval world, and it would allow the Vikings to reach places few people had ever seen. Beginning in the late 8th century, Viking raids shocked Europe. Monasteries and coastal settlements became frequent targets. The famous raid on Lindisfarne in 793 CE sent fear throughout the Christian world. News of Viking attacks spread rapidly. Their sudden appearance from the sea seemed almost supernatural to many communities. Yet raiding was only one part of Viking society. Many Vikings sought wealth through trade. Others searched for new lands. Their reputation as warriors became legendary. But their civilization was far more complex than simple conquest. The Vikings were among the greatest explorers of their era. They settled Iceland. They established communities in Greenland. And centuries before Columbus, Norse explorers reached North America. Leif Erikson became one of history's most famous explorers. Crossing dangerous oceans required extraordinary courage. Navigation depended upon experience, observation, and deep knowledge of nature. Every voyage carried enormous risks: storms, ice, shipwrecks. Yet the Vikings continued pushing farther into the unknown. Their curiosity expanded humanity's understanding of the world. Despite their reputation as warriors, most Vikings were farmers, craftsmen, and merchants. Communities relied on cooperation. Local assemblies, known as things, helped resolve disputes and make decisions. Trade connected Scandinavia to Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. Silver, furs, weapons, textiles, and other goods traveled across vast networks. Women often held important responsibilities within Viking households. Family and honor played central roles in daily life. The Viking world was dynamic, interconnected, and surprisingly sophisticated. Religion shaped Viking culture deeply. The Norse gods represented power, wisdom, war, and destiny. Odin sought knowledge above all else. Thor protected humanity with his mighty hammer. Loki embodied chaos and unpredictability. Stories of these gods inspired generations. Myths explain the origins of the world, the forces of nature, and humanity's place within the universe. These legends remain among the most famous mythologies in history. Even today, their influence can be seen throughout modern culture. Over time, Europe changed. Kingdoms grew stronger, defenses improved, Christianity spread throughout Scandinavia. Gradually, the Viking Age came to an end. The great era of Viking expansion faded into history. But the Vikings left behind a lasting legacy. Their settlements shaped nations. Their trade routes connected cultures. Their exploration expanded geographical knowledge. The age ended, but its impact endured. Today, the image of the Viking remains powerful, a symbol of courage, exploration, adventure. They sailed beyond known horizons not because they knew what awaited them, but because they wanted to discover it. Their world was dangerous, yet they refused to remain limited by fear. And through that determination, they became one of history's most unforgettable civilizations. And perhaps the most remarkable thing about the Vikings was not the lands they conquered, nor the treasures they acquired. It was their willingness to venture into the unknown. Across freezing seas and endless storms, they chased possibilities hidden beyond the horizon. That spirit of exploration continues to inspire humanity today, because every age has its own frontiers, and every generation faces its own unknown horizons. The Vikings remind us that progress often begins with a simple decision: to sail beyond what is familiar and discover what lies ahead. And perhaps the greatest legacy of the Vikings was not the kingdoms they built, nor the battles they fought. It was the courage to leave the safety of the known world behind. While many feared the endless ocean, the Vikings saw opportunity beyond every horizon. They sailed into storms, they crossed unknown seas, they explored lands that few people even imagined existed. Their ships carried more than warriors and merchants. They carried humanity's timeless desire to discover what lies beyond the horizon. Even today, that same spirit drives explorers, scientists, and dreamers across the world. Because the story of the Vikings is ultimately the story of human curiosity itself. The desire to go farther, to learn more, and to seek new worlds beyond the edge of the map. And in that spirit, the Vikings became legends forever.